The crying in the field. Welcome to Dark Tale Shorts 101, where every shadow has a story to tell. Our stories are inspired by real people, folklore, personal encounters, and terrifying experiences from around the world. While the narration is created using AI voice technology, the stories come from human accounts and unexplained events people never forget. We try to keep our stories under 10 minutes. But sometimes that feels unfair to the friends and listeners who share their experiences with us. Some stories carry too much fear, emotion, and meaning to be cut too short. So instead of forcing every story to fit perfectly, we do our best to keep them around 10 minutes while still respecting the heart of the experience. If you enjoy short horror stories, paranormal encounters, and creepy storytelling, please like, subscribe, and join us. Because sometimes, the scariest stories are the ones people swear really happened. Tonight's story is called The Crying in the Field. Thank you to everyone who shares their stories with us and helps bring these chilling experiences to life. My grandfather used to say that not every cry in the night belongs to something human. He said if you are alone in the dark and you hear a baby crying where no baby should be, do not answer. Do not call out. Do not go looking. Because sometimes, the thing crying is not lost. Sometimes, it is waiting. This story happened to a farmer many years ago. He was a quiet man, hardworking, the kind of man who trusted the land more than people. He grew vegetables on a piece of farmland that sat far away from the main road. During harvest season, he often stayed late into the night, watching over his crops. Back then, people worried about animals, thieves, storms, anything that could ruin months of hard work in a single night. So the farmer built a small shed near the edge of his field. It was not much, just wooden walls, a tin roof, a small cot, a lantern, a few tools hanging from nails, and enough space for him to rest when the night grew too long. Most nights were peaceful. The field would settle under the moonlight. Crickets would sing from the grass. The wind would move gently through the rows of crops, and the farmer would sleep lightly, waking now and then to check the land. But one night, everything felt different. The air was still, too still. No wind, no insects, no frogs from the ditch. Even the leaves seemed afraid to move. The farmer noticed it before he went to sleep. He stood outside the shed with his lantern in hand, looking over the dark rows of crops. The moon was hidden behind clouds. The field stretched out in front of him like a black ocean. He listened. Nothing. Not one sound. He told himself a storm might be coming. He went back inside the shed, closed the door, and lay down on the cot. The lantern burned low beside him. The wooden walls creaked softly as the night cooled. He pulled his blanket over his chest and tried to sleep. Sometime after midnight, he woke to the sound of crying. At first, he thought he was dreaming. It was soft, distant, a thin little cry, like a newborn baby. He opened his eyes. The shed was dark except for the dying glow of the lantern. He held his breath and listened. For a moment, there was nothing. Then it came again. A baby crying, weak, hungry, afraid. The farmer sat up slowly. His heart began to beat harder. There were no houses close to his field. No families nearby. No road where someone could have passed with a child. He knew every neighbor, every path, every sound that belonged to that land. And there should not have been a baby out there. He stood up and reached for the lantern. The cry came again. This time louder. It seemed to come from the far side of the field. Near the tree line, the farmer opened the shed door. Cold air entered. He stepped outside. The field was dark. Rows of crops disappeared into the night. He lifted the lantern and called out, "Hello." The crying stopped. The silence that followed was worse. The farmer stood there, listening. His hand tightened around the lantern handle. Then the baby cried again. Closer this time. Not much, but closer. The sound came from between the rows. The farmer felt the hair on his arms rise. He took one step forward, then another. He told himself someone might have abandoned a child. Maybe a woman had passed through and left the baby there. Maybe someone needed help. He could not ignore a baby crying in the field. No decent person could. So he walked. The lantern light shook in his hand. The crops brushed against his legs. The soil was damp under his boots. The crying continued. Soft. Broken. Almost like it was trying to guide him. Every time he stopped, the crying stopped. Every time he moved, it started again. That was when the farmer began to feel afraid. He stopped between two rows and looked around. Where are you? He whispered. The baby cried again. Farther ahead, near the old irrigation ditch. The farmer swallowed hard. He knew stories. Old stories. Stories told by elders around cooking fires. Stories about spirits that cried like children. Creatures that copied human voices. Things that lured people away from safety. But stories feel different in daylight. They feel foolish when you are surrounded by people. At night, alone in a field, with a baby crying where no baby should be. Those stories become very real. The farmer turned back toward the shed. The small building was still visible behind him, its doorway a darker square against the night. He almost went back. He almost locked the door and waited for morning. Then the cry came again. This time, it sounded so close to a real newborn that his heart twisted. It was not just crying. It was gasping. Tiny. Helpless. Like a baby fighting for air. The farmer cursed under his breath. Fear or not, he could not leave it. He kept walking. The rows grew thicker. The lantern light seemed weaker. The night around him pressed in. Then he noticed something strange. The crying was not coming from the ground. It was coming from above. He froze. Slowly, he lifted the lantern. At first, he saw only leaves. Branches. The dark shape of a tree near the ditch. Then something moved. High in the branches. The farmer's breath caught in his throat. There was something hanging there. Not a baby. Not a person. Something long and thin, clinging upside down from a branch. Its body was folded strangely, like its bones did not sit the way bones should. Its skin looked pale gray in the lantern light. Wood in some places. Dry and cracked in others. Its arms were too long. Its fingers wrapped around the branch like hooks. And its head was turned toward him. The farmer could not see its full face. Only the mouth. Wide. Dark. Hanging there. Opening and closing. Then the sound came out. A newborn baby crying. Perfect. Soft. Helpless. But now that he could see what made it, the sound became terrible. The farmer stumbled backward. The thing stopped crying. For the first time, it made another sound. A clicking noise. Fast. Wet. Like teeth tapping together. Then another cry came from behind him. The farmer spun around. Another baby cry. From the field. Then another from his left. Then another from the ditch. His blood turned cold. There was more than one. The first creature opened its mouth wider. The baby cry changed. It stretched. Twisted. Became something deeper underneath. Like the cry was only a mask. And something hungry was breathing behind it. The farmer backed away slowly. He remembered what his grandfather had said. If you hear a baby crying where no baby should be, do not answer. Do not go looking. And if you see what is making the sound, do not run right away, because running makes prey. The farmer forced himself not to turn his back. He kept the lantern raised. The creature in the tree shifted along the branch. Its movements were wrong. Too smooth. Too quiet. It crawled upside down like a spider, its long fingers gripping bark. The crying around him grew louder. A chorus of newborn voices in the dark field. Some close. Some far. Some moving. The farmer's hands shook. He wanted to scream. He wanted to run. But he knew if he panicked, he would not make it back. He reached into his coat pocket. Inside, he had a small pouch of dried chili peppers. He had brought them for his meal earlier that evening. His grandfather had once told him that some spirits and creatures hated strong smells. Smoke, pepper, burning herbs, anything sharp enough to sting the unseen. The farmer did not know if it would work, but it was all he had. He lowered the lantern carefully, opened the small glass door, and dropped the dried peppers into the flame. At first, nothing happened. Then the peppers caught. A bitter, sharp smoke rose from the lantern. It burned his nose immediately. His eyes watered. He coughed and nearly dropped the lantern. But the crying stopped. All at once, the field went silent. The creature in the tree jerked backward. Its mouth opened, but no baby cry came out. Instead, it hissed, a high, angry sound. The farmer waved the smoking lantern in front of him. The pepper smoke drifted through the rows. Something moved in the crops. Fast, away from him. Another shape dropped from a branch and disappeared into the ditch. The farmer did not wait. Still facing the tree line, he backed away. Step by step, the smoke burned his throat. His eyes streamed tears. But he kept the lantern between himself and the darkness. The creature in the tree followed him for a few yards, crawling from branch to branch. It opened its mouth again. This time, it did not sound like a baby. It sounded like many voices trying to cry at once. A baby, a woman, an old man, a wounded animal, all twisted together. The farmer's knees nearly gave out. But he kept moving. The shed was closer now. He could see it behind him. The door was still open. The darkness inside looked safer than the darkness outside. The crying started again. Soft. Behind him. In front of him. Beside him. But now he knew better. He did not answer. He did not look toward every sound. He kept his eyes on the path back. When he reached the shed, he stepped inside backward and slammed the door. He dropped the latch. Then he shoved a wooden crate against it. The crying stopped outside. For a long time, there was nothing. Only his breathing, his coughing, the sting of pepper smoke still clinging to his clothes. Then something scratched the wall. Slow, light, like fingernails dragging over wood. The farmer covered his mouth with his hand. The scratching moved around the shed. One wall, then another, then the roof. The tin above him bent slightly under a small weight. Then another, then another. The farmer looked up. Something crawled across the roof. Then something else. The shed creaked. A baby began to cry directly above him. Then another, then another. The sound filled the little shed. Newborn cries from every side. The farmer pressed himself into the corner, holding the smoking lantern with both hands. He whispered prayers. He whispered the names of his ancestors. He whispered that he was sorry for answering. Outside, the cries grew louder. Then suddenly, one voice spoke. Not clearly, not like a person, but close enough. Come out. The farmer stopped breathing. The voice was soft, almost like a child. Come out. He squeezed his eyes shut. No, he whispered. The roof creaked again. Something tapped above him. Tap, tap, tap. Then the voice changed. It sounded like his mother. A perfect imitation. My son, come help me. Tears ran down his face. His mother had been dead for years. The farmer bit his hand to keep from answering. The thing outside knew voices. It knew cries. It knew how to pull at the heart. It did not hunt with claws first. It hunted with pity, with love, with guilt, with the sound of someone who needed you. The farmer stayed in that shed until dawn. The crying continued for hours. Sometimes near, sometimes far, sometimes above him, sometimes right outside the door. But he never answered again. When the first gray light of morning came through the cracks in the wall, the sound stopped. Not faded. Stopped. The farmer waited until the sun was fully up before he opened the door. The field looked normal. Birds sang in the trees. Insects moved in the grass. The crops swayed gently in the morning wind. But the ground around the shed was covered in marks. Long, narrow tracks. Handprints with too many fingers. Scratches on the wood. And on the roof. Small dents where something had crouched for hours. The farmer left that day and did not return alone. When he came back with other men, they found the tree near the ditch. The branches were scratched deep. The bark was peeled in long strips. And hanging from one branch was a piece of cloth from the farmer's coat, caught where the creature had reached for him. No one found a baby. No one found an animal. No one found anything that could explain the cries. After that night, the farmer never slept in the shed again. He still tended his crops. He still worked the land. But when the sun began to fall, he left. No harvest was worth staying after dark. And whenever someone asked why, he only said, "If you hear a baby crying in the field at night, leave it for morning." Some people laughed. Some said he had dreamed it. Some said he had been tired. But the farmer never argued. He knew what he saw. He knew what crawled in the tree. He knew what cried above his roof. And he knew the worst part. Those creatures did not sound like babies because they were lost. They sounded like babies because they knew humans would come. They knew kindness could be used as a trap. They knew a good heart could lead a man straight into the dark. So if you are ever alone at night, far from houses, far from roads, and you hear a newborn crying where no newborn should be, do not answer. Do not call out. Do not follow. Because somewhere in the dark, something may be listening, and it may already know exactly which voice will make you come closer. Thank you for listening to tonight's story here on Dark Tale Shorts 101. If this story gave you chills, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who enjoys creepy encounters, folklore, and unexplained stories. And if you have a true scary story, family legend, or personal experience you would like to share, we would love to hear it. Until next time, stay safe, stay aware, and remember, not every cry is asking for help. Some cries are bait.